Hello and welcome to this short session about tax relief for foster carers. Are you a foster carer? Would you like to know how much of your fostering income is free from income tax? If the answer is yes to both of these questions, then you'll find this video useful. I'll explain what qualifying care relief is and how you can use it to work out your profit. First, I'll give you a little bit of background information. HM Revenue and Customs, I'll use HMRC from now on, treats foster carers as self-employed for income tax and national insurance purposes. This means you need to work out and pay any tax and national insurance yourself if there's any to pay. You do this by filling in a self-assessment tax return each year. You can find out more about registering for self-assessment on the gov.uk website. When you are self-employed, you may have to pay Class 2 national insurance, a set weekly amount paid twice yearly in January and July or monthly by direct debit, Class 4 national insurance, and income tax. The amounts you pay for Class 4 national insurance and income tax will depend on how much your profit is. You won't pay Class 4 national insurance if your profit is below the threshold. And if your profit is below your personal allowance for income tax, then you may not have to pay income tax either. This depends on what other income you have each year. When you use the online tax return, it works out how much Class 4 national insurance and income tax you have to pay as you fill in your details. You'll find information about the rates for national insurance and income tax on the gov.uk website in the Money and Tax section. Before I explain the tax relief available for you, I'll say a little bit more about profit from self-employment. When you're self-employed or working for yourself, you have to keep details of all the money you receive. This is usually called your business income or turnover. In this example, this is £50,000. You don't pay tax on all of your business income. First, you take away the cost of running the business and any items you buy for the business, usually called business expenses. You have to keep detailed records of all your business expenses. In this example, it's £20,000. This then leaves you with a business profit of £30,000. And you use the £30,000 to work out your income tax, not the £50,000 business income figure. Some foster carers choose to use this method to work out their profit from fostering. If you want to use the profit method, then follow the general guidance for self-employment on the gov.uk website. Most foster carers prefer to use the qualifying care relief method, and I'll now explain how to use qualifying care relief to work out your profit. Qualifying care relief makes it a lot easier to work out your profit. It also makes keeping records easier. Qualifying care relief is available for foster carers who arrange to foster with one of these organisations: local authorities, health and social services or HSS trusts in Northern Ireland, or voluntary fostering organisations. If you make private arrangements with family or friends to care for their children, then you cannot use qualifying care relief. Follow the usual self-employment rules and use the profit method in these cases. When you use qualifying care relief, you're referred to the payments you get from the fostering agency as your total receipts. This is your income from fostering. You can then take away a qualifying amount instead of your expenses to find your profit. This saves you having to work out all of your expenses item by item and keeping lots of shop receipts. I'll now explain each of these terms in a bit more detail for you. Your total receipts will be everything the fostering organisation pays to you, your income from fostering. It will include payments such as fees and reward payments. These payments may have different names in different parts of the country. Birthday, holiday and clothing allowances for the children in your care. And expenses and petrol allowances. You may get some expenses to attend additional training or meetings with the fostering organisation. You need to include everything you receive from your fostering organisation. We'll now find out how to work out your qualifying amount. A qualifying amount has two parts: a fixed amount and a weekly amount for each child. The qualifying amount covers all of your costs and expenses. Instead of keeping shop receipts for each item of clothing, every outing, and all the food you buy for the children, the qualifying amount covers everything. The fixed amount is a yearly figure. It's £10,000 for each household for a full year. If you haven't been a foster carer for a full year, then you can't use the full £10,000 and you'll need to adjust the figure. For example, if you start foster caring halfway through the year, then you can only use half of the fixed amount, in other words £5,000. You'll also need to adjust the fixed amount if you stop being a foster carer during the year. If you share your household with another carer, then you have to share the fixed amount. Remember, the fixed amount is for each household, not each carer. As well as the fixed amount, you have a weekly amount for each child. The weekly amounts are £200 for children under 11 years old and £250 for children aged 11 and above. Each week runs from Monday to Sunday. If a child is with you for part of a week, then you use the full weekly amount for the child's age. For example, a 9-year-old child stays with you for 4 days: Saturday, Sunday, Monday and Tuesday. Most carers would only expect to use £200, but you can use 2 times £200 because the child has been with you for 2 part weeks. Remember, each new week starts on a Monday, so Saturday and Sunday are in week 1 and Monday and Tuesday are in week 2. Let's now work out the qualifying amounts for a full year. If you've been a foster carer for a full year and there are no other carers in your home, you'll have a fixed amount of £10,000 for a full year. If you've cared for a child under 11 years old, then you add 52 times the weekly amount of £200, which is £10,400, to make a qualifying amount of £20,400. If the child was 11 or older, then the qualifying amount for a full year would be £23,000. As before, that's made up of a fixed amount of £10,000, and then you add 52 times the weekly amount of £250, which is £13,000. Remember though, these figures would only apply if you care for a child for a full year. This may not always be the case. Some of you will have been carers for a full year, and others will have started or finished during the year, so the fixed amount can vary. It's unlikely that all of you would ever care for the same number of children of the same ages for exactly the same periods each year. So your qualifying amount is your individual amount. You need to work out your own qualifying amount each year. Now, let's find out how to use the qualifying amount to work out the profit for Liz. Liz became a foster carer halfway through the year. There are no other carers in her home. She uses half of the £10,000 fixed amount, as she's been a foster carer for half of the year, so that's £5,000. During that time, she fostered 2 children. For Bob, who stayed with her for 18 weeks and was 14 years old, she uses 18 times £250, which is £4,500. And for Anne, who was 7 years old and stayed for 10 weeks, she uses 10 times £200, which is £2,000. When she adds these 3 figures together, she has a total qualifying amount of £11,500. But has Liz made a profit? To answer this question, we now need to find out how much she received from her fostering organisation. Liz has £11,000 in total receipts from her fostering organisation in that year. Then we take away her qualifying amount of £11,500. So there's no profit. Liz will not pay income tax or Class 4 national insurance on her foster caring income for that year. This is because her qualifying amount is more than the foster care income she received. It means her receipts are exempt from income tax and Class 4 national insurance for that year. But Liz can't assume that she'll always be exempt from income tax and Class 4 national insurance. She must check her figures each year. Let's now consider what happens if the total receipts are more than the qualifying amount. In this example, Frank has been a foster carer for the full year. There are no other carers in his home. Frank uses the fixed amount of £10,000 for a full year. He adds the weekly amounts for the 2 children he fostered during the year. That's 48 weeks at £250 for 14-year-old Jason, which is £12,000, and 10 weeks at £250 for 11-year-old Mark, which is £2,500. His total qualifying amount is therefore £24,500. To work out his profit, he uses the total receipts of £30,000 and then takes away his qualifying amount of £24,500. His total receipts are more than his qualifying amount, and he has a profit of £5,500. So Frank uses this figure to work out any income tax and Class 4 national insurance due. Before I finish, I'll briefly mention the records you need to keep. Keeping records helps you to work out your profit and fill in your tax return when the time comes. When you use qualifying care relief, you need to keep records to show your total receipts, details of your payments for fostering for the year. If you started or finished being a foster carer during the year, then you need to work out part of the fixed amount. So keep a record of your start or end date as a foster carer. To work out the number of weeks you care for each child, the dates children arrive and leave must also be recorded. And to make sure you use the correct weekly amount, the date of birth for each child must also be recorded. You can keep your records on a computer or on paper. Do whatever you'll find easiest. It's a good idea to have a regular time set aside to update your records throughout the year. You'll find more information about tax returns and making payments on the gov.uk website in the Money and Tax section. Before I go, I'll just suggest a few things for you to do later. Set up and make sure you're keeping all of the records you need. If you'd like a more detailed session, there's a foster carers online seminar on the HMRC website. And don't forget to use the gov.uk website to find out more about self-assessment, rates of income tax and national insurance. Thank you for viewing this HMRC video.